We're here today to not talk. We've been talking for the last 2 months about the problem. Today is about the solution. Today is about the solution. I think we've come to a very good solution. I think we've come to a very good space and a very good place. We're going to have us opening with a word of prayer by Reverend Shannon Jones, who's actually the president of the Concerned Black Clergy of Metro Atlanta. And he's also one of our board members, Reverend Shannon Jones.
Thank you, Elder Smith, Reverend Smith. Before we pray, we just want to say on behalf of Concerned Black Clergy that this has been a day that should have been coming a long time ago. Reverend Tim McDonald is indeed an institution. And as a graduate of Benjamin Elijah Mays High School, I was very glad to see Reverend Mays be able to see a school opened up, an institution opened up that would embody the things that he taught, that he lived by. I'm so glad that Reverend McDonald is alive and well today to see this institution that will embody the focus and the vision that he has lived out before us. Let us pray. Eternal God, how we thank you that you placed within Tim McDonald that special something. You breathed your ruach pneuma, your spirit within him. But you asked him a question, and he heard that question. And with his life, he has sought to answer that question. Who will go for me? And Tim McDonald has been going for you, standing for you, being a voice for those who are marginalized and voiceless, standing up against those in the prophetic tradition who would claim to have the power, pulling out the seat from the center table. And when the question was asked, what are you doing holding that chair? His answer was, I'm holding that chair for those who have a right to be here, but whom you have not invited. And so as we come now to this groundbreaking moment, this moment of speaking into existence this institution, we ask that the very power and presence that lives now within the man will live now in this institution. This monument not to a man, but to one who answered your call. This monument to the destiny that you've placed within him, the mission that you've placed within him, to make straight the crooked places. Come now and be with us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
We won't be before you guys long. One of the things we do want to do is we want to show a video that's going to kind of highlight exactly why it is that we're doing this, what's the purpose of us doing this. So we're going to show this video that kind of highlights the purpose of us doing this. I think we have it queued up. And then after the video, the first speaker we will hear from there would be Commissioner Lorraine Cochran, followed by Commissioner Robert Patrick. And then we'll hear a word about the man of the hour from our very leader, Reverend Gerald Derby. Let's show the video. And it's so important to me. I think it goes back to literally how I was raised. I want to dream big, and one of the things that's important to me is that I don't want to get us caught up in like the financial aspect of it, right? I am not here to make my rent off of you. Grew up in a household with my grandmother, we didn't have it all. He has one saying, he says to me all the time, he says, Sean, wherever there's vision, God always provides provision for the vision. Through faith, we believe that it was a better future for us. My vision is to have the second floor that is really community driven. And our vision is to dream of something different, to give children something different to dream about.
I purposely, when we go do the tour of the second floor today, I purposely left it in the condition that it was in, because if you don't have vision to see past what's up there now, then you can't be a part of seeing it, right? I want people who can like look at it, like see all the dirt in there and see the mess, like, dang, I can see this. I can make this happen.
I'm super excited that we'll be announcing that the name of the center will be the Reverend Timothy McDonald Outreach Community Center. And if it had not been for somebody just encouraging me along the journey, like, I would be different. So I want to change that narrative, y'all. Like, I really do. Like, I'm more passionate about that than anything.
Good afternoon to everyone. Of course, you all know me if you're here from DeKalb County, Georgia. But because of God's grace, I feel I represent people everywhere. I was made aware of this just yesterday, and I couldn't be more happy than to stand here in First Iconium to acknowledge the good works and the need for more community partnership. Government is ill prepared to deal with the issues of a modern society. It requires outreach. When we sit here, I understand that the programs that will be announced today deal with gun violence, mental health, the arts, as well as computer science. I urge everyone to join in these efforts because government can regulate alcohol and traffic, but we cannot regulate the human spirit. And what we need to do now more than ever, Dr. King wasn't wrong when he said, it's time we learn to stick together. So I'm here today to urge everyone to make financial contributions to ensure that these programs are able to manifest and have an extended reach to people that are in need. Because when you see what we're experiencing in our communities, hurt people hurt people. We're dealing with a community who are hurting, and we don't understand the effects of mental illness. We don't understand what our youth experience and endure. We often think they receive skills at home when there are absent parents. So bridging opportunities and programs is what's needed. So I want to commend Reverend Timothy McDonald. I want to commend PUSH as an organization and all of the organizations that must come together to ensure the manifestation of this vision, because this is a solution to a problem that government cannot solve. So thank you for allowing me to be a part, and I look forward to supporting these efforts in every way humanly possible. It's time, my grandfather used to say, that you can tell what's important to a man by two things: where he puts his time and his money. It's time, Pastor Durley, we put our time in our community and put our money behind worthwhile initiatives. So I look forward to supporting you.
Good afternoon. I'm Commissioner Robert Patrick, represent District 1 DeKalb County. First of all, thank you very much for the very warm invitation to be here today. It's much appreciated. It's nice to come down to the south side and see some good folks here too, so thank you very much. You know, it's always hard to follow up with the great words of Commissioner Cochran-Johnson, but I'll keep my comments brief. You know, we're living through trying times. We turn on the TV every day, and there's something terrible that happens, even over the holidays, even on Sundays with our families. Gun violence is a component to that. I sometimes think we're missing something at the home front, and I hope that programs such as this work to address those things, help fill that void that our young people and even some of our people our age are experiencing right now. I don't know if it's because of COVID, or spending too much time watching things on the internet, but we have to start looking after each other. Whether you're on the north side or the south side, the east side or the west side, everybody wants to live in a safe neighborhood. Everybody wants to be able to walk to the grocery store, walk to church, take their kids to school, and come back safe, come back whole, and come back better. And so for this, I absolutely support you, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Commissioner Larry Johnson, and welcome to District 3. I'm glad that you all are here. This is an awesome responsibility. I represent this area, and that's what God has called me to represent. And so we're here to connect and make a difference. This issue is very personal, and we want to support what we're doing in this district. And Reverend Mack, wherever you are, this is a great and distinguished honor for a trailblazer, a warrior, a person who's a man of God, who stands here in the midst of making it happen for us. Violence is rampant. As a young man growing up in Inglewood, south side of Chicago, I had a chance to see it personally. I mean, we had, when I left before I went to college, we had about 800 homicides on one side of town. But now it's coming down south. We just recognize it. It's been here. Gangs been here. But I think this center is going to be an opportunity for us to connect and re-energize and focus on collaboration and building partnership. Government can't do it by themselves. I had a Miss Jones, I had an Eloise, and I had a grandmother. And they work with our schools, and they work together with our nonprofits. So this has to be a collaboration. It won't be one group. It has to claim responsibility. It takes all of us working together. And so we stand here as your commissioner in this area to see how I can work with Reverend Mack and his nonprofits, because prevention is the key. There's an African proverb that says we make the path by walking it together. And that path means education, prevention, environmental modification, and wellness, which is mind, body, and spirit connected together to make sure we can propel ourselves going forward. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I had a 17-year-old that was murdered. A young man called her to come out of her bed about 11 o'clock. She was the homecoming queen. She was head of the ROTC at Towers High School. And I had a chance to go by there just to connect with the students to see where they are. And the mother was tore up. And they don't speak English. And the boy, her young brother, which is in middle school, Pastor Mack at Bethune Middle School, had to interpret. So he lost a big sister. And then I met the best friend at the school. And she said, I only had 2 friends left. This was one of them. I mean, the day before, they were all practicing. The day I was there, 2 weeks ago, they were doing their senior prom pictures. Now she's not here. She's missing because of being murdered on Glenwood Road. And so we stand with you, and whatever we can do to help to propel this effort to move forward. But just know DeKalb County has resources. We're working as well to do stuff in our community. So thank you for the opportunity, and let's work to make Reverend Mack name as proud as it is today. God bless you. Thank you.
So this time, just to make it real quick, I don't feel privileged enough to even introduce the person who we're naming this building after. So the only person I could think of when I reached out was a guy who's been on the front lines forever, a civil rights legend within his own right. He needs no introduction. Everybody, we can give it up for the only Reverend Gerald Durham.
There are times in all of our lives where we don't know where we're going to be, what we're going to say, how we're going to say it, and why you've been put in a spot. Today, I'm reminded in 1961, that was my freshman year, so don't cally up. I'll be 81 my next birthday. And I don't feel no way tired. But more importantly, when we were talking about the same kinds of issues that are negatively, disproportionately impacting our community then, when we talk about not voter suppression, but voter denial then, when we talk about all the segregated laws, and we began to pull together something called SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And we came together very much like in a place like this. Many of the great movements started in places like First Iconium with people like Reverend Timothy McDonald. Those who had visionary ideas, those who were not afraid to speak truth to the powerful, those who were not afraid to even challenge our own at times like this. Many times, programs of this magnitude with Sean Smith and Blackwood, when they come together, they start in places like this. We euphemistically call this Holy Ghost heaven, because when you come in here, Reverend Timothy McDonald is going to speak truth not only to those of us who are here in many instances, but also to the powerful. He's unashamed, he's unabridged, and he will talk truth. So many times we found black folks, colored, Negro, I don't know what we call this, Mom. But anyway, we get behind the scenes and we don't speak out front. He's always been a cutting edge, and to bring together nonprofit groups, and particularly around mental health. As you know, I'm a psychologist as well as a pastor. So when we talk about the three things that kept us strong as a group, and it's put here, it's the church, the family, and the school. Right now, the schools have become so distorted. The family has gone in so many directions. And now we've got to understand that the church, too, we cannot afford to do social distancing. The strength of the black church is epitomized by First Iconium has not been, they said there were 5-letter words that made the black church strong. It was not necessarily money, and at times it was not faith, but it was always a key word that made us strong, and that's what we see today. What this center will be about. The 5-letter word that always made us strong was T-O-U-C-H, touch. The touch. Grandma could sit down and say, hey, baby, take a piece of peppermint candy and put your dress down. She was teaching discipline. It was the discipline in places like this that gave us the strength to move to the next level. So as we come together today, for the 501c3s and others that will come here, we come because we're a unified front. Booker T. Washington said, when you put all the fingers together, you've got a fist, and you will strike. We're now prepared to strike. A lot of the things that we didn't understand, that we did not know what we were doing. If you talk with Andy and John and some of us who came up, they said, oh, you all right? We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew we had to do it. And Reverend McDonald said, we had to did it again. And when he said that, you know you got to get out there and march. And working together along with Black Push today, it was an honor. When I came here, I didn't know. I saw my name on the list. I said, what do I have to say? But sometimes when you're in and this is my favorite word, what is it, Tim? A kairos moment. You tell time two ways. Chronos means there's so many minutes in an hour, so many hours in a day. We said we'd come here at 12 o'clock chronologically. This is not a chronological meeting. This is a kairos meeting designed by God Almighty. It's coming through the power of Tim McDonald and Sean Smith and Black Push. Kairos means that there are no time. It means that you and I are not here by accident. You've been put here for this time for such a reason as this, and for the foundation to make it go. I close with this, that I'm tired of black folks getting together and shouting, wigs falling off their head, teeth falling off their mouth, talking about I'm on the battlefield for my Lord. I'm on the battlefield. You people sitting here, you're not on the battlefield, you're in the battle. That's what's important. We've got to tell our people to get in the battle. I know some folks that have been singing that song, they're 30 miles from the battle. They don't have a scar, they have never been divorced, they've never been in debt, they never had a debt. But when you've been in the battle, so we're here by a man and a place that's opened up a center that's in the battle, not on the battlefield. We've seen people 30 miles from the battle talking about I'm on the battlefield, and they're gone before you see them. So today we come, we want to thank my good friend, Reverend Timothy McDonald. And I guess what I'd like to say is that so many times we wonder, I'll never forget, and many of you know, C.T. Gibbons was there with me for a long time in the pulpit. And we'd always wonder, we asked the question one time, Jesse and all of, was it worth? I was a little boy then, about 63, 64 years old. And would you do it again? And so Joe Lara said, well, yeah, I'll do it. Andy said, yeah, I'll do it. C.T., yeah, I'll do it. Yes, yeah. But would you do it again? And that really epitomizes the day. The torch has been passed on. Tim McDonald has not only assumed the torch. I know a lot of people that have taken the torch, but the torch is blown out. The torch has gotten put under a bushel. He has taken the torch and has lighted the way for all of us to continue to march. So don't let this be what I call the Frankenstein moment. When I was a boy, I used to go to the movie, and I'd watch The Werewolf, and I'd watch Frankenstein, and I'd be afraid in the movie. But as soon as I went outside and I saw the sun, I forgot what I was watching. This is not a Frankenstein moment. This is a Kairos moment. So when we leave here supporting these 501c3s, because they're going to come together and be that fist that Booker T. Washington talked about, under the leadership and the vision and the intestinal fortitude and the wisdom of Reverend Timothy McDonald. So the torch has been passed on to you, Tim. You've had it for some time, but you're doing more than just passing the torch. You're lighting the way for generations yet unborn. So we ought to just give this man a standing round of applause. Oh, I can't hear you. This is not a rally. This is about a man who has meant so much to so many for so long. A man who is not on the battlefield, but a man who is in the battle and he's using this facility as a facility. God bless you. Thank you. And let's continue to march on. Come on. I know this is not possible. I vote for Warren. I don't know who you're going to vote for, but I'm getting ready to vote. I've already voted for Raphael Warnock. I can't tell you because this is private, but that's who I'm voting for. Bye.
All right, you guys. So before Reverend Matt comes up, I have been tasked with outlining the vision for the space. So let's make it clear. This is not about Black Push. This is not about Reverend McDonald. This is about lives. One of the things that's important to me is that when we first started thinking about the center, Reverend Matt and I spoke on December 23rd, 2021, or 21, I'm 22 now. I was in the hospital last year, and I was trying to decide where I was going to go and serve in ministry. And me and Reverend Mac had a conversation December 23rd, 2021. And we looked at each other and we said to each other, we don't know what this is going to end up being, but we know God is in the midst of doing something great. When I thought about the center and I thought about the work that we have to do, there's nobody who exemplifies what I'm trying to do in this community better than what Reverend Timothy McDonald has and continues to do. I serve under him here at First Iconium. I serve here in ministry with him. He has blessed me with the opportunity to now be his youth minister here at First Iconium. And I know the man's heart and what he has to do. So first off, let's talk about the vision of the center. The vision of the center is not about Black Push. It's not about First Iconium. It's about community. If we're going to fix the problems that we have within our community, it's going to take the community to fix those problems. One of the people who I've learned that lesson from is, believe it or not, one of my good friends, Black Voters Matter, has been an instrumental part in teaching me that lesson throughout the last year. Because we traveled throughout the state with them doing something called the Warren Clinic, and it was all about bringing community back to our society. So this center will deal with gun violence. This center will deal with mental health. This center will deal with youth. This center will deal with families. This center will deal with arts. And one of the things that is really important to me, if you know anything about me, is that I'm this person, I'm a product of the arts. I'm a product of the arts. I grew up in a community where people would have written me off and told me what I was going to be. And the arts literally saved my life. So one of the programs that we're getting ready to roll out is a group called Creative Arts. And what they're going to be actually doing is using African drums as a way to help children deal with their mental health components. We are opening the doors, you guys, for nonprofits who would not have the doors open to them, for nonprofits who are overlooked, who are not given the credibility that they have deserved, for nonprofits who literally would not have this space if it wasn't for the heart of people like Reverend McDonald. We're going to go after gun violence because I'm tired of seeing our children killed on the streets. Amen. I'm tired of, next week I will visit Colorado, I will visit, where's the other shooting that just recently happened? I will visit Virginia as well. And I'm tired of just meeting with families and sitting around and telling families that I'm sorry for the death. When there's things we can do within our community, there's resources we have within our community. So Black Push is taking on this initiative to bring these partners together, to bring these organizations together. We're going to deal with trades, you guys. We're going to have a computer lab upstairs. We're going to actually have free tutoring where kids will be able to come in here and be tutored by a tutor virtually or in person for free. These are things that we're getting ready to do, and I'm going to do another shout out to, shame on everybody who's not here. Shame on every city who's not represented in this place today. Shame on every county who's not represented in this place. One of the beautiful things about First Iconium, for me, when I knew it was a God-given mission, the East Building where the center is getting ready to go literally sits in DeKalb County. The building that we sit in right here, right now, literally sits in Fulton County. So literally, if you're standing in the sanctuary in Fulton County, if you go to where the center is going to be at, you're in DeKalb County. And I was praying about, God, is this the right thing for me to do? God said, I need you to see the big picture. And I said, God, I still don't understand it. I can't put it all together. I don't get it. He said, I need you to see the big picture. I said, I still don't get it. I don't understand it. What are you trying to tell me to do? He says, if you can connect DeKalb and Fulton County together on this issue and work together, and if you can bring in nonprofits who are represented through Conyers, there's some nonprofits, y'all, who are coming from Conyers, from Rockmart, from Clayton County, from South Fulton County, to be a part of making a difference in the metro Atlanta area. We have an obligation to our babies, to our families, to our children, to stand up and say enough is enough and hold these people who are accountable, who are in office, accountable for our lives. I'm going to end by saying this. 3 months ago, I had the great opportunity of going to Providence, and I sat down with Reverend Durley. And Reverend Durley gave me a charge I didn't understand at the time. He said, Sean, what's the plan? And I was like, what do you mean by what's the plan? You haven't seen all the work I've been doing for the last 2 years. I've been out here on the protest. I got pictures with everybody. I've been out here working. He said, what's the plan? What is going to be what defines you for the long term? And I said, I think that the work I've done will define me for the long term. He said, no, what's going to be what defines you for the long term? So I sit back and I thought about it. He said, 3 months from now, I want you to come back and I want you to have an answer for me. It's 3 months today, exactly from the day that we actually sat down and had that conversation. And my answer for Reverend Durley is that I am dedicated, our nonprofits that we have here are dedicated from Sheep Ministries to Hoop Nation, to the Shaquille Clark Foundation, to Freight Fighters, everybody here. We're dedicated to the one thing, and the one thing that we're dedicated to is making an impact on this community, dealing with parenting, dealing with gun violence, dealing with our youth and giving them resources to do, dealing with our young women and teaching our young women that they can be more than just people who stay in hotels and people who don't have the resources. They can create their own resources. We're going to be partnering with organizations like Boss Girls to teach them that they can create their own resources, to teach them that they can dream big, to teach them that they should be the next elected official. I want to change the way our community sees itself. And if we can do that, and when we do that, then we will be identifying the passion of the man in which I see the sins are going after. So Reverend Max said something to me this morning. He said that I was nervous because I've never actually given an event over and given over something where I didn't play a part in it. And this is what I want Reverend Max to know, that the vision that will be portrayed out in this building will be his vision. I sit with him every day. I talk to him every day. I know his heart. I know where his mind is at. And I want to make it clear to every single person that's here, for those nonprofits who are partnering with me, and for those nonprofits who are partnering with me along the journey to go the rest of the way, we will not detour from the vision that God has given us to make an impact on the lives of people. We will not be concerned about who goes along with us on the journey. But for those who want to go along with us on the journey, I'm here to say that you have a partner. If you're in the city of Atlanta, you're in DeKalb County, and you want to really do something to work on gun violence, I'm here to say you have a partner. Because I traveled this nation when it came down to gun violence. And shame on me because I'm just getting back to looking at Atlanta and understanding that there's a problem in Atlanta, just like there's a problem in Uvalde, just like there's a problem in Buffalo, just like there's a problem in every place else. And Atlanta now leads the nation in the amount of gun cases we have per day. Atlanta now leads the nation. You guys, we have to do something more. And this, me, is not about the cameras, it's not about you, it's personal for me. I've lost family members to gun violence. I've lost children to the streets. I've lost family members. I remember the first nonprofit I ran as a high school student was a program where we taught kids how to play the violin. And I'm going to, Reverend Mack will come up after this, but we taught kids how to play the violin. My teacher started the program because of the fact that he found out that there was an elementary school teaching that had all these violins and nobody teaches. So the school had bought 40 violins for the school and never taught anybody how to play it. For 5 years, the instrument sat there. So my teacher decided every Wednesday that he was going to go over to this elementary school. And every Wednesday he was going to teach the kids from 4 to 5 how to play the violin. One day I was sitting in the doctor's office and I got a phone call that said that my teacher, who I had been from elementary school all the way up to high school, was killed in a car accident. And the first thing that snuck into my spirit was I grieved his death. But the first thing I thought about Reverend Durley was, what about those kids? And I remember Sun Sentinel found out about it. For a lot of them, they did an article on it, Mrs. Brown, and they asked one of the little boys, his name is Jeffrey, and I still remember him, this is over 20 years ago. They asked Jeffrey, they said, if you wasn't here doing this, what would you be at home doing? And his answer to Commissioner Khadijah was so sweet and so simple, but when you hear from the child, from the voice of an 8-year-old, it can change your life. And I looked at this 8-year-old, and he looked at me, he said, if I was not here, I would be at home getting in trouble. And I realized that me teaching somebody from 4 to 5 just how to play the violin was keeping him out of trouble. To the day, that program has sent over 200 some kids to college for arts programs. To the day, that program has created 5 arts teachers throughout the whole South Florida region. To today. Something that started out as a dream Something that started out as a vision when people said that we could not do it. When people said that we cannot make an impact on gun violence. I'm here to say we can, we will, as a community. And the man in which this building symbolizes, Reverend Timothy McDonald, is the epitome of why we will do it. Because by faith, by hard work, and by dedication, and perseverance, and not caring how it looks, and calling out those who don't want to give a voice to this issue, we're going to get it accomplished. Without further ado, I introduce to you Reverend Timothy McDonald III.
You answered my question. Lord help.
Thank you so much. I'm very humbled by this. Very nervous too. I don't know what is going to happen. Usually a pastor has some idea of what's going to happen at the church. I had no idea about this beyond the conversations that Sean Smith and I had. In 1978, I was just finishing up Emory Candler School of Theology, and Dr. Joseph Roberts, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, contacted me about coming to serve as the full-time assistant pastor with him, and Daddy King as the pastor emeritus at Ebenezer. I was 23 years old. I was already pastoring in Dalton, Georgia, Shiloh Baptist Church. Started pastoring when I was 21. And God said, I want you to go to Ebenezer. And I went to Ebenezer, and Dr. Roberts asked me, how long can you give me? I said, I'll give you 5 years. And then I'm going to pastor my own church again. I stayed for 6 with Daddy King. I asked permission for Mrs. Christine King Parrish to drive them around. It was during that 6 years that the missing and murdered children was happening in Atlanta. My wife and I think it was 82, went to Japan, and they had on Atlanta on the news about the missing and murdered children in Atlanta, in Japan. Concerned Black Clergy was born out of the ministers coming together to discuss the missing and murdered children. When they arrested Wayne Williams, the suggestion was made for the clergy, well, we've solved it. We can disband now. I wasn't even 30 years old. All the elders were there. We were meeting every week at Pascal's, the black restaurant. And they said, well, thank you all for coming all of these Mondays. We think we got the one who's behind this. God bless you. And I raised my hand. The youngest one probably in the room, Brother Shannon. I said, I don't understand why we had to stop meeting. Metro Atlanta needs black clergy. Interdenominational, there's not one interdenomination. The Baptists got their group, the AME got their group, the CME got their group. We need to work together. Cornelius Henderson was presiding. Cameron Alexander was there. Dr. Lowry was there. And they said, that young man, he's saying something. I felt pretty big then. I said, we need to meet next Monday. And we started meeting. And we decided we would name ourselves Concerned Black Clergy of Metro Atlanta. I said, we're not all clergy. We're not all black, but there were white pastors with us. And we're not all concerned, but we're going to meet every Monday morning. And we started. From that, and I'll get to this point. I worked with Maynard Jackson. I was the deputy campaign manager in 1989 for Community Concern. Telling some of you how we got to this point. And Maynard asked me to come and work at City Hall. I swore I would never work for a municipality. But it's Maynard Jackson. He didn't say no to Maynard. While I was working at Maynard Jackson's office, City Hall, I received a phone call. And I remember his name was Chris Brinkman. He was a white real estate agent. He said, do you know a black pastor who might be able to buy a church? You would concern black clergy, aren't you? I said, yes. I said, well, let me see what you're talking about. About 12 o'clock. I said, okay. He brought me over to 542 Moreland Avenue. That was then Moreland Avenue Baptist Church, a white congregation. There was no carpet on the floor here. There was no cushion on the pews. 1990. I saw the classrooms. 2 3-story buildings. And my mind went crazy. Over 200 rooms of what the possibilities could be in this place, in this space. In 1992, right down the hall here, we had 5 nonprofits who didn't have money. We allowed them, we gave them an office, a desk, a chair, and a telephone. That was in 1992. That was 30 years ago. And some of them were dealing with some of the same issues that you're talking about now, particularly gun violence. So when Reverend Sean and I started talking about what the possibilities are now and what the needs are now, they were consistent with what we were doing 30 years ago. Yes. The church where I pastored in the West End is 1,300 square feet. The home my wife and I lived in was, that time was 1,400 square feet. Our home was bigger than the church. But in that church that sat a maximum of 150 people, Coretta Scott King was one of our speakers. John Lewis was one of our speakers. Andy Young was one of our speakers. Because of the connection that we had made at Ebenezer, we invited them to come. Vision is what this young man has. The Bible says without a vision, the people would perish. When we came over here and I showed my deacons and my trustees this building with cobwebs everywhere, paint hanging everywhere, you know, just hard floors, no cushion, they said, Red, we don't need that. But I saw the rooms that could service the community. If COVID has taught me anything, COVID has taught me the church is not a building. The church is the people. It's the people. I already knew that, but COVID made that even more profound. It's the people. We've had a school, a daycare center here that serves 175 children. We got a Christian school. And when Elder Smith and I talked about the vision, I said, let's make sure that whatever we do is 10,000 square feet on that floor, 80,000 square feet in this complex. Let's make sure we serve the community. I get so upset when I see these big churches with all this space and it's dead during the week. Nothing is going on during the week. That would not be First Iconium. 30 years ago, we had the first computer technology center with 15 computers with a floppy disk that was really a floppy disk, y'all. That's how long ago we had it. We had an after-school math and science program here 30 years ago for children in the surrounding community. 30 years ago. This is consistent with what we have been trying to do. And now God has sent you. And He introduced me to several of you and what you're going to bring to this space to service the people. Because at the end of the day, it's about service to the people. One of my favorite quotes is, real leaders don't just make more followers.
Real leaders make more leaders. Real leaders make more leaders. James Orange spent many times right here, the Reverend James Orange, right in this pulpit. C.T. Vivian, Dr. Lowry, Andy, all of them preach from here. Real leaders make more leaders, not just more followers. That's who First Iconium is. From day one, 38 years ago, when we started with 35 members, our mantra was the servant church. I've never, and I have been approached by the church, wanted anything named in my honor. Unlike some other folk, it makes me nervous. It does. But when he first asked me, I told him, let me pray on that. That means you would a preacher tell you that pray on that means you don't want to do that. And I didn't call him back. He called me back. He said, what about here? What I mentioned to you, I said, well, I'm still praying on it. Next thing I know, he done made up a flyer, got my picture on it, and sent it to me. Said, what do you think about this? I said, well, I guess it's all right. But here's the final thing. I want to thank all of you for being here. I know that ministry is going to take place on that second floor, 10,000 square feet. But the reason I'm standing here right now is primarily due to one person. I was 21. She was 19. And I met her at Berry College in November. In 6 months, I asked her if she would be my wife. In 2 months, it'll be 47 years. She's the wind beneath my wings.
Come on now.
The highs and the lows. The good times, the bad times. When I went to jail, got arrested, she didn't worry. She just prayed for me, calmed the children down, told them, Daddy gonna be all right. He's just doing the Lord's work. I'm going to ask my wife to come. Amen. Shirley McDonald. This is my rock, my strongest supporter, my strongest advocate, my best friend in the whole wide world. We've grown up together, and I thank God for that. Having reached the point in our lives now, she's retired, been retired for 4 years, thanks the Lord every day. I tried to retire right before COVID. I had already announced. And COVID hit, and I can't see how a pastor could leave his people in the midst of a pandemic. But we've been cruising. In the last 12 months, 10 of them, we've been cruising. She's my best companion, the prayer partners. And I thank God for this honor, Black Push. What it means for me is there's work to be done in the kingdom. Yes. And I thank each and every one of you, particularly these nonprofits. This ain't about no show horse. This is about workhorse at the end. If you about show, you can go somewhere else and find some space. But if you're ready to work for the people, to serve the people, to work with Black Push, And to get some of that vision in you, you're in the right place. And God ain't through with you yet. May God bless you. May God keep you. And I look forward to seeing you in the field.
So, come on, 1 second. We're going to stay here for 1 second. So with that being introduced, he said he was nervous about it, but I do want to, I think I'll be remiss if I do not mention that we do have a logo design for this new facility. The new facility will actually open as far as the grand opening will be in February. It'll align with the church's anniversary. So we'll do the ribbon cutting around the same time as the church's anniversary. But the work, make this clear, the work starts tomorrow. Literally for everybody who's a nonprofit will be coming into the space. They all signed their leases today. And we'll be getting keys to them today and tomorrow. And we will begin the work tomorrow because the work that we have to do, Reverend Durley, you asked me 3 months ago, the work that we have to do is too important to wait till February. So without further introduction, I would like to introduce to everybody the logo for the Reverend Timothy McDonald. And I think that Ali can get it for us. Reverend Timothy, well, there we go. Community Outreach Center. Let's give it up for Reverend Timothy McDonald. Community Outreach Center. So I want to remind everybody, those who are press who are watching, if anybody wants to be a part of this, if you're in part of the community, you want to be a part of this. From Grieving Families, one of our other partners, Grieving Families, you can go to www.blackpush.org. You can make a donation there, but it's not only just your financial donations we need people to volunteer your time, your resources. If you have other nonprofits and you have other things that you can bring to the center, listen, the only way we're going to do this, Amos 3 and 3 puts it to birth perfectly. How can two walk together unless they be in agreement? And I don't know about you, but Fulton County, DeKalb County, Clayton County, Gwinnett County, DeKalb, all these counties, we have to be in agreement about one thing, and nobody should lose their life. Trying to go to school, trying to go to the hospital, trying to even go to the grocery store. No one should lose their life in doing so, and we have a job to do so. Thank God for all the partners that we've had over the course of this time. Ms. Latasha Brown with Black Voters Matter and her whole organization for being here. Let's give them a round of applause. We have Commissioner Khadijah here representing Fulton County Commission Board here. Let's give her a round of applause. Again, we have Commissioner, get their names right, Daryl Johnson, amen, from DeKalb County. Larry Johnson, I'm sorry, from DeKalb County. Let's give him a round of applause. I will do this. We also have Mr. Roland Martin, who's here, who's a national TV, our TV personality. He's here with us today. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give Shannon Jones, who's here with Concerned Black Clergy, a round of applause. I'm sorry your name, but she's representing the Kima Williams Fund. Miss Freeman.
Make sure that the Congresswoman's office is in the house.
The Congresswoman office is in the house, and the Kima Williams is in the house. So she's in the representative here, so let's give her a round of applause. Let's give a round of applause to Commissioner Lorraine Cochran, who is currently running. Or no, not running. We done. But she is in DeKalb County. Let's give her a round of Commissioner for DeKalb County. And let's give a round of applause to Commissioner Robert Patrick, who's also representing DeKalb County. And for those while we still have cameras, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this loud, and I don't care how anybody feels about it. This center for me is more important than just raising money or just doing something great for Reverend McDonald. I know the man in which I serve under. And I know what he tells me when I serve here at First Iconium. And we're not doing this just for show. We're not doing it just to put his name on a building. We're doing it because the city needs work. That's right. This county needs work. This state needs work. And I'm here to say, Black Push, all of our partners, we're going to put a press release out today that's going to list all the partners that are involved in this work. We're here to work. And we just need everybody to partner with us. And we want to put a shout out to the city, to the counties. If you're willing to work, and if you really want to work, and if you really want to do something about the violence that this city is seeing, call us at 678-823-7638, because we're ready to get to work. I know we have a lot of meetings coming up with some of the other city council members and Congress people, but we need your voice. We need your help. We need you to make sure that this happens. And let's give it up for Reverend Timothy McDonald and his lovely wife. Thank you for everybody who is here. If you guys have any questions, we'll answer those questions right after this. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Sorry, for all the nonprofits, Miss Latasha Brown, all the nonprofits, can you guys just come take a real quick photo with us real quick?